Well, hello, everyone, and I'm so glad you could join us today. Today is Sunday, July 27th, and for those of you that have been following along with us in our journey, today we're taking a big step. We are stepping out of the Old Testament. This is what we've worked through, and stepping into the New Testament. This is where we're headed. And today we're going to begin in the book of Matthew. Now, I'm just going to give a very kind of general overview, real quick, of the Gospels. So, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are all four considered what's called gospels. And so as we dive into Matthew, we're going to get Matthew's recording of the life of Jesus, of the ministry of Jesus, of what happens, of Jesus' death and resurrection. Mark is going to give us the same, Luke, and then John, but all from different perspectives and all kind of with different audiences intended. So I think it's really neat that for those of us who have been on the journey, we've just worked our way through the whole Old Testament. Matthew's main audience, not his only audience, but the main audience that he's thinking of, are probably Jewish readers of his testament, of his Bible, or I'm sorry, of his gospel, if I can get the right word out there. And so he is going to talk a lot about in his gospel different ways that Jesus fulfills prophecies, different ways that Jesus preaches on the Torah with authority, different ways that Jesus talks about the journey in a very Jewish way, so that it connects with Jewish readers, so that it connects with people who have a good understanding of the Torah, who have a good understanding of the prophets. They know the history books, they know the Psalms, they know the poetry and the wisdom literature from their heritage. And Matthew's going to use that to his advantage as he records the story of Jesus. So, where we're actually going to start with the Gospel of Matthew is actually going to be in chapter 5. And these first 3 days that we're in the New Testament, we're going to be reading Matthew's chapter 5, 6, and 7. And this is a sermon that's kind of delivered by, not kind of, it is delivered by Jesus on what's called the Mount of Olives. And so this is kind of a collection of a lot of Jesus' teachings, a lot of his intention, a lot of what he wants his children to do, how he wants them to behave, how he wants them to live. And it's going to reflect a lot of, this teaching is going to reflect how he lives and how he demonstrates his life and the perfection with which he lives from heart inside from the very beginning. So we're jumping over the birth story of Jesus in Matthew. We're jumping over the genealogy that Matthew gives, showing that Jesus comes from the line of David. We're jumping over the escape from Egypt, return to Nazareth, and John the Baptist in the wilderness, right up to where Jesus is now beginning to preach and teach. And so let's hear from the word of the Lord what the disciple Matthew writes about Jesus and about Jesus' teachings, starting in Matthew chapter 5. And I'm reading from the New International Version. Now, when Jesus saw the crowds, he went up on the mountainside and he sat down. His disciples came to him and he began to teach them. He said, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. You are the salt of the earth. But if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them. I have come to fulfill them. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth disappear, Not the smallest letter nor the least stroke of a pen will by any means disappear from the law until everything is accomplished. Therefore, anyone who sets aside one of the least of these commands and teaches others accordingly will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever practices and teaches these commands will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you that unless your righteousness surpasses that of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, you will certainly not enter the kingdom of heaven. You have heard that it was said to the people long ago, "You shall not murder, and anyone who murders will be subject to judgment." But I tell you that anyone who is angry with his brother or sister will be subject to judgment. Again, anyone who says to a brother or sister, "Raka," is answerable to the court. And anyone who says, "You fool," will be in the danger of the fire of hell. Therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar, and there remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. Go and be reconciled to them first. Then come and offer your gift. Settle matters quickly with your adversary who's taking you to court. Do it while you are still together on the way, or your adversary may hand you over to the officer and you may be thrown into prison. Truly, I tell you, you will not get out until you've paid the last penny. You have heard it said, "You shall not commit adultery." But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to sin, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away. It's better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to go into hell. It has been said, anyone who divorces his wife must give her a certificate of divorce. But I tell you that anyone who divorces his wife, except for sexual immorality, makes her the victim of adultery, and anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Again, you have heard that it was said to the people long ago, "Do not break your oath, but fulfill to the Lord the vows you have made." But I tell you, do not swear on oath at all, either by heaven, for it is God's throne, or by earth, for it is his footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. And do not swear by your head, for you cannot make even one hair white or black. All you need to say is simply yes or no. Anything beyond that comes from the evil one. You have heard that it was said, "An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth." But I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek also. And if anyone wants to sue you, take your shirt, hand over your coat as well. If anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles. Give to the one who asks you, and do not turn away from the one who wants to borrow from you. You have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and he sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. If you love those who love you, what reward will you get? Are not even the tax collectors doing that? And if you greet only your own people, what are you doing more than others? Do not even pagans do that? Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect. That is some incredible teaching from Jesus to open up our time in the New Testament, right? Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are those who are meek. Blessed are those who are merciful. Blessed are those who are pure in heart, right? And then he talks about all these laws that the Jews would have been expected to follow, not to murder, not to commit adultery. And he talks about different practices like relational practices, filing for divorce, um, making oaths, taking revenge, loving enemies. But he takes all of these teachings and he takes them to this level that we begin to realize God has not desired us to check off boxes. God is interested in our hearts, right? We can participate in the law in the sense of don't commit murder. Okay, most of us in our lives are not going to murder someone. But then Jesus says, if you even think in your head with hatred or anger towards your brother or towards someone else, you've already committed the sin of murder inside of your heart. If you've said to them, Raka, or you fool, you've already stepped into a violent act against them. And Jesus sets the bar so high and reveals to us this isn't about just not killing someone. This is about what is your heart saying? What is your heart doing? Jesus talks about adultery and says, of course, don't commit adultery. And, some of us have had a struggle in that space and some of us haven't, but that's maybe not as many people there's not as many people that, I'm sorry, there's more people that will commit adultery than will probably commit murder, right? But even still here, Jesus says, I say to you, don't commit adultery, or you've heard it said, don't commit adultery. I say to you, if you look at another human being with lust in your heart, with lust in your eyes, if you ponder on their body and think about it sexually, you've already committed the act of lust. You've already committed the act of adultery in your heart, and you're guilty, right? This is incredible teaching. This is very hard teaching for the Jews to wrestle with, for them to hear. They're like, they got to be asking, then who could possibly be righteous enough, right? And Jesus says to them, unless your righteousness surpasses that of the Pharisees and Sadducees, you will have no part in the kingdom of heaven. This is really incredible teaching. And then Jesus kind of concludes this section, or this chapter concludes with this love for enemies teaching that Jesus gives. That says, love your neighbor, hate your enemy. And Jesus says, I tell you, pray for those who persecute you. Love those who plan atrocity for you. This is what your Father in heaven wants. God himself causes the sun to rise on both the good and the wicked. Rain comes and it falls on both the righteous and the unrighteous. And in the same way, for you to be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect, you must love your enemies and do good to those who persecute you. What an incredible call from Jesus. What a task to live up to. This is not easy teaching. This is not some easy path. This is not some way that people get to just check out and they could just check off the boxes. This is not just show up to church on Sunday, throw a little money in the coffer, tell somebody you prayed for them, and then go about your business. This is radical life transformation. This is like Jesus wants all of our hearts to be rendered unto the Father. Jesus wants our attitudes, our hearts, our minds, the intent of our actions, not just the actions, but the intent of our actions to reflect this tremendous obedience. What a call, what a challenge, what a way to step into the New Testament. Ponder on these things. Ask the Lord if there's any impure ways in you, and ask him to make you righteous. Ask him to give you love like this, to give you compassion like this, to tame your eyes, to tame your heart, and to help you to move into deeper and deeper righteousness. He will meet you in this journey. This is a hard teaching. We're going to continue to press on into it tomorrow. God bless you, Wellspring. Have a great day.